Well, thank you for staying with us. Time now for the news review. Let me quickly introduce my guests to you. Yaa Jantuah is a former General Secretary of the CPP. She's also worked with the PURC, the Public Utilities Regulatory Commission. We also have Suleimana Brahima. He's Executive Director, Media Foundation for West Africa. Both of them join us for this conversation. Suleimana Brahima will be joining us shortly via Zoom. But in the studio, we have Yaa Jantuah. Good morning.
Good morning, Ben. How are you?
I am well. They say if you're looking blue, maybe it's in terms of idiomatic or figurative expressions, it means you're sad. But this blue looks beautiful. So
thank you.
I see that even your diary is blue.
My glasses is even blue. I left
your So today is a blue day for you.
Yes, I left it in the car.
It's a blue start to the week.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you for joining us.
You're welcome.
You know how we do it, a minute and a half. What are your thoughts for us this morning?
My thought is Ghana.
Ghana?
Yeah.
Well, we are all contemplating Ghana, but what about Ghana?
Oh, sanitation.
Why sanitation this morning?
Our city is too dirty.
I see. Is this something you saw this morning?
Oh, no, I've seen it all over. Last night I was thinking about it. What can be done to clean the city of all the filth? And it also occurred to me that whichever government comes to power, they should take a work plan from the ministers and give them KPIs on the work plan. The work plan has to be approved by the group that is going to form the cabinet. Then they should give KPIs. After 6 months, you should come back and do a PowerPoint presentation of what you have done. So that the ministers, when they take the job, they don't go to bed and sleep.
I see.
We have a minister of sanitation, and our country is this dirty. I mean, it is unfortunate. The economy is also on my mind. Things are expensive, but you always hear the MPP saying that things have improved. Do you understand me? So I want to wake up one day and I'll hear the MPP admit that we are going through some crisis, some economic crisis.
So you want more honesty?
Yes, it will be nice.
Okay, so two things I'll just say before but let me welcome aboard Suleimana Brahima, Executive Director, Media Foundation for West Africa. Mr. Brahima, good morning, sir. You would have to unmute, Mr. Brahima.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. Good morning.
Good morning, Dan, and good morning, Nana. Good to see you both.
Good morning, Sule. Good morning. How are you?
Doing well, Nana.
Good to see you. So just hold for me, Mr. Brahima. I'll come to you shortly. Two things. You know, when it comes to this bit about sanitation, I feel it's like Galamsey. Yeah. If we had the political will, we would get it done. I always say that even in the days where we were supposedly not as educated as we are now, as enlightened as we are now, the town council would come, and if your environment, they would summons, basically. They would summon you. You would go get surcharged, and if you repeated the offense, there would be dire consequences for you. I always say that, listen, whether it's taxes or, do you think the people in Japan, in Australia, where their taxes are about 45%, but the caveat is that what they deliver to the people in terms of emergency health services, in terms of free health services, in terms of free bus, train, tram. So let no one say that because I'm saying this, oh, we are not paying taxes. What are we even doing with our taxes? That's the problem. But I'm saying that no one likes paying taxes. No one likes doing some of the things that we know are good for society. But if you have a system and it enforces it, you have no choice but to do the right thing.
Our bylaws.
In other jurisdictions, if you go past a certain speed limit in a certain area, send an electronic ticket. You see, so it's a matter of will.
Just caught you.
It's a matter of political will.
And we have bylaws.
We do.
Bylaws should work.
There was a time where, you know, many years back, the surroundings of the Jubilee House, there was this portion behind. The Jubilee House itself, there was a heap of rubbish.
Even inside.
Yes. So what would you say when it comes to sanitation?
When you enter the first, like the site that you will see was a heap of rubbish.
Yeah.
And that wasn't long ago.
It is what it is. But let me just add that when it comes to the cost of living, one person at least has told me that, and Paul Graves sat here and said something, and we all, went at him because, of course, you can't expect everybody to go to the market at 4 a.m.
No.
But the truth is that if you do go to some markets, as Shaiman or other places, around 4 a.m., you would get goods at a slightly lower price in some instances. No, I'm just saying that unless you want to do that, but ordinary people like us, we probably aren't going to be able to do that.
You see, those markets, is when you are buying in bulk.
Yes, when you're buying in bulk.
That is when you would feel that.
Yeah.
But when you are buying...
And even that, the tomatoes, you are buying right when they offload.
Yes.
Then you are pricing and buying. So you will get some...
When it gets into the hands of the middlemen, you won't get it as we always talk about.
You will not.
Yes.
You will not.
The prices will not be that low.
Let me go to Suleiman Abrahima. You have some 2 minutes. What are your thoughts for us this morning?
Well, then, I think that it's basically about reflecting on the challenges of our country as they are. And I think, to a large extent, nothing is being done to deal with the root causes of our problems. And unfortunately, we are actually digging deeper. I think we are where we are because of the kind of politics that we've practiced, because we've reduced politics and governance into just basically empowering and enriching people. So in our country today, I think politics is really about wanting to get oneself into a position that would make you rich, make you powerful, make you wealthy, enable mechanisms for you to steal. And I think it is both parties. And over time, what we have been seeing, particularly also in this campaign, are promises from both sides that are basically unrealistic to fulfill. But people feel, let us say it to the people. The MPP in 2016 did it perhaps with amazing success. And so it has become the template that everyone is following. Let us say to the people what they want to hear. Whether or not we are able to implement it, when we get power, we would continue to deceive them. And so to a large extent, what we are seeing are a lot of empty promises that are, I would say, being planted and watered with deception. And certainly the only thing we can harvest in the end will be catastrophic failure. And that is what we are in. I think it is time for us to tell ourselves the bare truths, even as it may be so inconveniencing. You look at the policies that are being proposed by both parties, and some of them are absolutely unrealistic. And if we continue that way, our country would never get to the place that we want it to get to. We talk about free SHS. We call it free SHS, but then it is important that those of us in the media begin to do the kind of work that we must do, begin to serve the people appropriately. It is time for freshers to go to school, those who are going to Form 1. Let us get out there and talk to the parents who are enrolling their kids about the cost that they are incurring. And then we will know whether it is indeed free or is a subsidized, education system that we are running, which I believe is what it is. We are talking about 24-hour economy. Are we in a country that really can sustain and implement 24-hour economy when a government gets to power? I doubt that. Free education, as I said, it's absolutely not free unless you get your kid in the school. Then you begin to realize the realities of what they call free education. 1 million jobs. The other time I heard my brother Ponkroma, talk so big about how many people will be employed and all of that. And that is why, as I said the other time, you listen to Dr. Bawumia's campaign people, and your conclusion would only be that Akufo-Addo has been a real terrible leader, because they make you feel that, look, this is the man with the vision, bold ideas, and you can only conclude that, oh, wow, this is a vice president who has just served under a very terrible leader. So I think it is time for us to tell ourselves the truths, absolute truth, inconveniencing truths, And that is the only way we can make this country move forward.
Thank you for your initial thoughts. We also have Ishaq Ibrahim. He's senior lecturer at the UPSA Law School, joining the conversation. Good morning. You have a minute. Any quick thoughts on your mind?
Okay. I think I will focus on the substantive hearing by the Supreme Court today. I'm talking about the case of Afenyo Makin versus the Speaker of Ghana Parliament. Apparently, the Supreme Court will dispose it today. So my prayer is that at the end of the substantive hearing, if an order is made, we need to implement it in the national interest. I'm saying it because you can see an interim order was made. There has not been a successful attempt to implement it, and I think that is where a problem is. Because I believe it should have been implemented, but we failed to implement it. And I expect that once a substantive order is made, we need to implement it in the national interest, then we can move on to other very important issues affecting the nation.
You're a lawyer.
Yes.
Do we have any business being here, whether from the parliamentary standpoint, the executive standpoint?
Yeah.
Because unfortunately, we have a system that fuses the executive and the legislature in parliament.
Yes.
And from the judicial standpoint, people say that every step of the way there have been actions that have brought us here when, in fact, this was needless. I always say that 97(1)(g) and H, for me, were pretty clear.
Okay.
Until now.
Yes.
But once we've taken the legal, and over the weekend, I was listening to News File with my colleague Samson Lade Anyanini, and some of what I heard, even from the last parliamentary sitting that never took off, about why we didn't show up and all of that, left me wondering about government business. But should we even be here? Very briefly. And could this have been averted?
Yes, I think it's possible it could have been averted because I've consistently argued that Professor McQuay was wrong. If you look at the wording of Article...
So in other words, what you're saying, because I want us to cut to the chase,
yes,
what you're saying then is Speaker Bagbin was also wrong?
Yes, yes, he was wrong. Because if you look at Article 97 very well, and you look at, there's a case called Special Tribunal Ex parte Acosa. The Supreme Court made it very clear over there. It gave 4 instances whereby you must count for interpretation. And the second instance, which is quite more relevant in this case, it says, if a rival meaning is placed on any of the provisions of the Constitution, then you have to count for interpretation. The Speaker of Parliament, as a lawyer, I expected him to refer you for interpretation, or at least do not take the...
Refer it for interpretation when there was a precedent set by Professor Michael Quay.
As I said, it's a wrong precedent.
And when the House
yes,
is a master unto itself in certain ways.
Not really, not really.
That's why I added in certain ways.
Provided there are matters within its remit. Here, the allegation is that it's grabbing powers from the High Court and the Supreme Court. So if you go outside your power, you can no longer argue you are masters within your own rules.
Let's dispose of this conversation because we have to get into the papers.
Okay.
2 things.
Yes.
Based on what did Afenyo Makin go to court?
Yes.
That's one.
Yes.
Based on what? What was he holding on to go to court? And secondly, if your reading of 97(1)(g) and H is what it is, tell me then what would be the use of the law? It would be redundant to me because if you say that these are the mechanisms that must be followed, and then 99 will talk about the High Court and its jurisdiction.
Yes.
If this happens and people complete their terms in Parliament, and they get into the next Parliament, of what use is 97(1)(g)?
No, but if you look at Saini's case, for example, Saini...
No, I'm asking a pointed question. Of what use is 97(1)(g) and H? If people can switch like they have now, like the Fomena MP, who was independent, he's now returning to the MPP. And then they come to the next Parliament. So then what will be the use of the law?
So that's why I'm trying to refer you to Saini, for example. The moment, you see, when they say if they crosses carpet, look at the wording of Article 97, where the problem lies, in particular. It says if he seeks to remain in Parliament as a member of Parliament, even though he was as an independent. So if you look at that wording very careful, that's where 2 meaning have been placed on it. Now, if you look at Saini's situation, when Saini resigned, he was trying to remain as an MPP member. So I believe that time it had kicked in. But these particular people are not talking about this current Parliament. They are talking about future parliament.
You say that.
So if they are talking about future parliament, there are others who disagree that it affects them in this current parliament. I believe it gives rise to interpretation. Because a rival meaning has been placed on it.
Let's look quickly at what Afenyo-Markin had to go to court.
So Afenyo-Markin went under Article 130 for interpretation. So
interpretation on what? There was nothing. There was nothing. What was the basis of going?
Well, if you are not a lawyer, you might say there's nothing. But I, as a lawyer, I'm reading that there is something in it.
So what was there? I'm asking you, what was there that the court ruled on, basically, at the point when he went to court? What was the court ruling on?
No, okay. He's seeking for interpretation of Article 97G and H. Now, the court, in the meantime, had given an interim order. So that interim order was meant to reverse it to the status quo. That was in existence before the Speaker made that decision.
And that's the point I'm making. Even the interlocutory injunction, so to speak, staying the hand of Parliament based on what was it given. There had been no interpretation.
Yes.
There had been no decision. So that's what I'm asking you. You are skirting the issue. I'm asking you, what exactly
there was interpretation.
What did it say?
Because you had to interpret it before you can implement it. Even though he said he has given a declaration or information, I believe we have to look at the effect of it. If it quacks like a duck, it is a duck. So his information was effectively to exclude them from Parliament.
I don't agree with
all right,
you are encouraged to disagree. This is the more reason why it has
because
to go for
let's make tracks. I'm giving you just 20 seconds.
Yes.
Just wrap up.
Because you see, in Parliament, there is no majority. That's why the Speaker said he has bent backwards for government business to thrive. 137. There should be no argument over it. Number two, when you go into the MPP constitution itself, 393, it says categorically that if you go against the person the party has decided, selected to be a member of Parliament, you forfeit your right automatically. Automatically, you are gone. Automatically.
But that wasn't my argument.
Please, automatically is immediate.
Okay.
When Afenyo-Markin went, he went for interpretation. My issue is that why didn't the court just say that it means that with this Parliament, A, B, C, D. Do you get me? I mean, because you see all these issues around it. If this issue of putting an injunction on the stay on the Speaker's order.
Right.
Yeah. If they had just interpreted and said that, look, because it is Parliament, because Parliament has worked, this is what it means.
Right.
Period.
Okay. Let's make tracks. Let's get into our papers. We have to go very quickly for the sake of time, so we can exhaust it.
137.
I'll start with you, Nanaya.
Yes, dear, I'm here.
Let's get into your papers.
Oh, what is there? This free SHS.
So we're starting with the Daily Guide.
It's in front of me. Protect free SHS with your votes, Educhum. Free SHS, we have issues. Resolve current impasse, Kufuor tells Bagbin. Mohammed's economic record bad. Nana commissions flower pot interchange. And that. I don't have to go. Do I have to go inside? Trump,
pick a few stories, one or two.
Trump to meet with Biden. Okay, that's a good one. He didn't meet Biden, but now he's going to meet Trump at the Oval House. I've heard they are going to meet at the White House. To discuss transition.
Well, that's what the law teaches us, right? You don't treat people as they treat you. If you know what is right, you do what is right. I think he was the first we had seen in a long time who hadn't, if ever, who hadn't showed up at the swearing in of his opponent.
I think Trump has an African leader as an advisor because he behaves like an African leader. Seriously. Resolve.
I think that is not so fair. Maybe some African leaders, not an African leader.
Okay.
There are good African leaders. And then there are some of those we know.
Okay, I hear. Minister Wu's Ashanti voters for MPP. Resolve current impasse, Kufuor tells Bagbin. You see, sometimes this is the same thing we are coming to. Bagbin is the Speaker of Parliament. One person that when Trump was president, he really feared was Nancy Pelosi as a Speaker of the House.
Well, he will still have to deal with her.
Yes, do you get me? As a Speaker of the Nancy Pelosi was somebody who Trump was afraid of as a woman. And knowing Trump, the way chauvinistic he is, he was afraid of Nancy Pelosi. He is the speaker of power. You should give him some respect. We have separation of powers. I think what we have done wrong, and we need to go back and look at our constitution, that we need to dichotomize the executive from the legislature.
He says in that media encounter on the 6th, he said it appeared the executive and the judiciary were in collusion, almost as though the apparatus of state had been weaponized against the legislature. Is that, some say he went too far by suggesting that?
No,
what do you think?
He didn't suggest it. He was categorical about it because of what he knows. You see, we shouldn't treat Bagbin as if he's a small boy. The fact that Bagbin is NDC does not make him any less the position in which he is.
He's a lawyer himself.
He's a lawyer.
He's been in Parliament since, what,
yes,
92?
and you see, the first time I encountered Bagbin was in 1992, 93. I was working at the GIPC as a young girl. And he was on a Talking Points program. And the kind of grammar, this man weaved the grammar so well. I picked the book and I started writing. This man...
But this is not, respectfully, it's not about grammar. But the other thing too is, he is not infallible. He's fallible.
I am coming. If I said he weaved the grammar so well, it made sense what he said. Bagbin is not he's not like, we are treating Bagbin as if he doesn't even know what he's about. We are treating Bagbin as if he didn't even think through what he did. When there were positions of vacancy in the Supreme Court, who came out to say that it should be filled? Did anybody go for an interpretation? The Chief Justice. We even said that she wants to fill the place, too many of them. We discussed this thing here. She was the one. So if there is a vacancy in Parliament, and there is, because these people who are sitting there, they are no longer MPP. Where is it? Okay, let's come to, normal day. Where is their hearts? They are not. They are independent. They have left the party to be independent. Look, every political party has that 97 G and H in their constitution. If you go independent against the prescribed candidates for the party,
you lose your membership.
You automatically,
right.
if you campaign for another party,
right.
Some of them say that, okay, if you campaign for another party with a different ideology, you lose your position. And they are there because of MPP. And automatically the constitution in their own party has made them lose their position.
Okay. All right. So your point is made. I'll go to Suleiman Ibrahima. But before I do, I see that story there, NDC election ploy exposed. Can you read that for us? What exactly is that?
What it means. Where does it start from?
So what does the story say?
The Opposition National Democratic Congress seems belligerent on winning the upcoming December elections, either by fair or foul means. Information gathered by Daily Guide indicates that the leadership of the party has deployed one of the last-minute strategies intended to win the elections. That involves sending its agents and assigns to some remote villages across the country, ostensibly to register young people for recruitment into various security agencies when they win the elections. Some of the villages are Atiku in the western region, Pasa, Nkwanta, Pare and Tokruntu in the Oti region. This they do by issuing out carefully designed and printed recruitment forms to unsuspecting Ghanaians under the pretext of having them enlisted into the various security agencies, including the Army, Navy, Immigration, Fire Service, and Customs when they come to power. This comes at no cost to the potential victims of this grand scheme. Okay. The agents and assigns are then said to later go back for their filled and completed forms with the promise of these unsuspecting youth that they will be first batch of people to be sent to training in the various security.
I think we've got enough from the story. I wanted us to get the details. The question I will ask, though, is there any evidence to back this?
Even if there is evidence, there is no ploy in this one. You see, we have strategies in politics. People use all manner, and even MPP.
But there are legitimate strategies.
Please, I beg you. This is not illegitimate. They themselves, they use it. Me, I'm a politician. I don't want to talk about this. This is not a ploy. Because they don't have any ploy to rig the election.
So two things on my mind, but let me bring in Suleimana Brahima. Mr. Brahima, so two things on my mind from that story. NDC election ploy exposed, supposedly that they are going to rural areas and trying to get people to, young people to, you know, support them so that, Nanaya, so that then they would get them jobs in the security services. There's no evidence to back it up. That's one. The second bit is, you would look at even the current administration and stories that have emerged. I mean, I've heard MPs, ministers say, I got X number of people into the police and all of that. I'm not saying it's right, but you know, if you come to equity, you must come with clean hands. And if you are a pot, don't go calling, or if you're a kettle, don't go calling the pot black. That's my end. Suleimana, any reflections on some of these stories we've done so far?
Well, Ben, I think the first point I will make is that we live in a country where a lot of the content in the media cannot be trusted. And I believe that is why you talk about there is no evidence. Otherwise, if we were in a situation where we believe and trust in the media, then the assumption would be that before the media put out something like this, there is evidence. And I believe years ago, that was the kind of journalism that we had. And the story itself will be presented in a way that as you read, you cannot but conclude that there is evidence. Nanaya read bits and pieces of the story.
Almost the whole story. Almost the whole story. I was waiting for the point where it would say we had caught these people red-handed doing this or something. I didn't hear that. Exactly. It's almost the entire story.
Exactly. Or the point where we would hear people being quoted, people being referenced, and the point where the NDC side, whether this constituency executives or regional executives or national executives have been spoken to, and this and this and this is what they said. In those days where true journalism was in place, an editor would not carry your story unless there are those elements that make the story journalistic. And that is the problem that we are in. So it takes me back to the whole thing about principles and values. What principles are we using? What values are we nurturing as a country? It's almost like everything goes. I can understand Anaya when she says, oh, this is not a ploy and all of that. But I think that we shouldn't really be getting into this realm where it's okay for politicians to do things that are really impossible just to be able to win votes. And like I said, maybe Nanaya's perspective is from the fact that it's been done before. People saying all manner of things that they know are impossible, but they would just say them anyway. We talk about one village, one dam. And then we have a situation where the government says, oh, this year there's drought, and we're going to make available some millions of cedis to farmers who have been affected. Where are the dams that were dug? I suppose the dams were being dug not for rainy season farming, but for dry season farming. And so if we are in a situation of drought, that's when we rely on our dams. But where are they? Howard Kumsin says, oh, what were you expecting? 250,000 dams. Were you expecting something meaningful? And then she is still on as a minister, because that is the kind of politics that we have. A lot of things that have been said, one district, one factory, where are they? But it's okay to say them to win votes. And I think that is where we are going. And we must pull the brakes. Otherwise, we'll get to a point where people will start saying that, look, when we can, we'll create more air for people to breathe, so on and so forth. It's terrible. We shouldn't do politics this way.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you for your thoughts. Let me come to Ishak. Which paper are you starting with?
Okay. The Ghanaian publisher.
Right.
Akufo-Addo commissions Ghana's largest single gold mine. The next story, with God, everything is possible, Bawumia. Opon Kuruma pushes for sustainable housing finance.
Would you like to get into any of those stories?
Okay, Ghana, Mali. Okay, let's look at with God, everything is possible, Bawumia. Page 7.
I mean, I'm sure it still feeds into the battle is the Lord's, right?
Okay. With God, everything is possible. New Patriotic Party presidential candidate, Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, has emphasized his faith in the power of God to guide and shape the lives of individuals and nations. Speaking to a Catholic congregation at Atimatim in the Afija Kabri East constituency on Sunday as part of his tour of the area, Dr. Bawumia affirmed his campaign slogan, "It is possible," explaining that it reflects his deep-rooted belief in God's ability.
I think that's Etimetim,
Sorry?
the place.
Etimetim.
Etimetim.
Okay. Sorry, I think I can't name beaten me.
I got you there. Yeah.
Yes.
Right. Anything you'd like to say about this?
Well, as a slogan, I mean, as the story concluded where I ended, that, it has been part of his slogan. I actually like his slogan, "Everything is possible," because usually when you listen...
Which one? Do you mean the political campaign slogan?
No. The slogan is
"It is possible."
It is possible. Yes.
All right.
So "It is possible" is a kind of, I think it kind of gives hopes that regardless of any obstacle that you encounter, if you put your mind to it and make effort, you are able to achieve it. And I think if that spirit is actually implemented fully, it's possible we can actually push this country to a greater height.
All right.
Because if you listen to so many people and you compare it to other countries, where other countries are always very, very hopeful, I think because of our years of problems, people always think if you think big, it's always impossible.
Problems created by whom?
No, I mean, as a nation, every nation have always had problems. And as a nation, we have always faced problems.
Some have more problems than
But-
others. I'm asking you a simple question.
Yes.
Problems created by whom?
I don't know whoever creates problems, but as a nation, we will always have problems. For example, the education sector, for example, when they try to introduce the free HS, I think the Afrobarometer report confirmed that Ghanaians really love it. So, for example, at the beginning, when they were trying to introduce it, people were saying it was impossible within our available resources that we have. But I think so far, the implementation has been successful. It just needs to be reinforced to make sure that, look, I actually believe it and I support it because of what they say it has achieved in the Northern Ghana, for example. Because you say enrollment rate used to be 800,000, but when it was fully implemented, enrolled in the Northern sector, we now have almost 1.4 million people in senior high schools. It means that the number of people who used to come here on Kaya would probably be reduced. So to some extent, it's going to actually resolve some of the national problems we have with migration.
All right, thank you. Suleimana, do you have any quick reflections before I come back to Yaa Jantuah? Since you are not in the studio, I want to be giving you ample time. You have about a minute. Do you have any reflections?
Well, I would want to say that, yes, I agree that the slogan being used by Dr. Bawumia, it is possible. It's a great slogan. I mean, it's a very catchy slogan and all of that. But it comes down to the question of it's possible to do what? You know, I mean, anything is possible. Good things have happened. Bad things have happened. It's all about having the honesty and the sincerity to do things. And my good brother talks about free SHS. I think that is a great policy, and I've always said that. Except that it's been politicized and being implemented in a very terrible way. And until you have relatives who are enrolled, you get to then understand that, well, yes, it's good, certain fees, certain costs have been absorbed, but it would have been great if the government was so transparent and open about the process so that teachers will have a greater role to play, parents will have a greater role to play, than to say, no, it's free SHS, I'm doing everything, no uniforms, don't provide uniforms, and yet 2 years down the line, uniforms have not been provided. Don't provide textbooks, but parents have to buy textbooks. Don't provide exercise books, but parents have had to buy exercise books and so on. And I think, again, we have to be very, very analytical as a country, especially those of us who appear on programs like this, so that we don't just repeat the kind of things that politicians would want to repeat. So when I hear the numbers, for example, as my brother was saying, oh, it used to be 800,000, now it is 1.4 million. Are we saying that the population of Ghana has been static? When I finished JHS, I think the total number of people who had registered and were completing that year was less than, say, 50,000 people. And this was the early 90s. By the year 2008, was the number the same? No, because the population is increasing. So with or without free SHS, the population would increase. Even though, yes, there are some people who would not have perhaps gone to school, but for the free SHS and the costs, that have been reduced. But it is absolutely wrong to always seek to create the impression that every increment in enrollment can be attributed to free SHS. The point I am making is that when you look at the numbers in the year 2000 and the year 2016, can we say that, oh, the increment was as a result of some free education or whatever that was introduced?
Right.
It is important that those of us who are intellectuals don't always create this kind of
the rate of increment.
All right. Thank you for those words. And in any case, a point that I wanted to make, but I just, let go of it, even before independence and during the Nkrumah period, because the people of the North had been marginalized to a large extent. Free education has been a part of the northern belt of the country till today. It's not free SHS. It's not the first free policy. Please go ahead with your papers. Please go ahead with your papers. Your last paper, Nanaya.
I should go through.
Are you going to do the daily analyst? We are pressed for time.
Okay, I thought I was also going to comment on this one.
Because of time, I would rather you go to your next paper.
Because I had a few things to say.
Okay, so let's go ahead. But it would be a cost-benefit analysis. It could cost you the next paper.
No, I'm just saying that it is possible to do what? It is possible to mismanage our economy. It is possible to, steal our money. It is possible to do what? You mention the name of God, but you don't honor God. Thou shalt not mention the name of thy Lord God in vain. My house shall be called a house of prayer, not a den of robbers. $58 million has been sunk into National Cathedral, the project. But what do we see? We see just a pool with a hole underneath. And you mention the name of God. What is that? Are you joking with God? You came with the battle.
Well, let's see. Maybe between now and the 7th of January,
they will finish it.
Complete the project. Maybe.
That's great. GJA president calls for intensified pressure on government. Yoko boss unveils new strategies. To fight public sector corruption. ADB congratulates 2024. This one wasn't publicized at all. The
National Best Farmer.
Reject MPP's vote.
I hear he's been a farmer for about 40 years.
Oh, wow.
Plus, thereabouts, something like that.
Okay, government increases producer price of cocoa to 49,600 per ton. Sosu bags, U.S. presidential. Sosu should be in his this thing anyway. Trump allies say Ukraine focus must be peace, not territory. We hope that he said that when he comes, the war will end. So let's see how it goes.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much. Let's quickly go to you, Ishak. Okay. Your final paper. Let's do the headlines very quickly.
That's has National Science and Maths Quiz served its purpose, or is it time for a new format? Questions, scholar.
Well, I hope the scholar realizes that it's a private enterprise, not a government run, though it's supported to some extent by the Ministry of Education. Yeah. Prime Time is a private entity, so if he has any thoughts, he should be channeling it to Prime Time Limited. Yes.
Okay, then it's not a good story then.
I'm not saying it's not, I'm just saying that it sounds as though maybe it were a government run thing.
We have this theory that if a private person starts something and it gets to a point that it's akin to as if the nation is doing it, then it could be an emanation from the state. You are more
all I'm saying is this article in the newspaper probably will not serve the purpose that the person is trying to achieve. Okay. Prime Time is a private entity. Channel your grievances to them.
Okay. I think Ghana Mali strengthen counter-terrorism collaboration amid rising general regional threats.
Right.
So I think it could be a good story. I think Ghana had always been worried that what is happening within the neighboring countries, in particular Burkina Faso, could spill over to Ghana. And I think about a year and a half ago, there were some residents who ran away from Burkina Faso and entered Ghana amidst a threat that they said they were facing. So I think Ghana getting directly engaged with leaders of the sub-region could be in the right direction.
All right. Yes. Let me just go through these headlines. New mining firm pours first gold. You've already spoken about that. The Cardinal Namdini Mining Limited, a Chinese large-scale gold mining firm operating in the country, was last Saturday inaugurated by President Akufo-Addo. And that's it. National Farmers Day, President announces free tertiary education for cocoa farmers' children. I heard him say that. I listened to it. Cocoa price shoots to 49,600 Ghana cedis a ton. If you go to page 13, it says the increment is by adding on 1,600 Ghana cedis, so bringing that to 49,600 per ton, marking the third price adjustment in 9 months. The new price, which took effect on November 8, represents a 3.3 percentage point increment from the previous 48,000 per ton and translates to 3,100 for a 64-kilogram bag of cocoa beans. Of course, we also know that is on the back of Côte d'Ivoire upping the ante, so that, it's in their interest, and so we also had to do something. Terrorism fight requires critical strategy. That's according to Albert Kandapa. On the back page, Kotoko lose again. My very own Krobe Asante Kotoko. Losing again, now slipping to 6th on the table, and Hearts of Oak in 5th there, both of them with 15 points. The Today newspaper, Ghana's judicial impartiality suffers decline. That's according to a report, and we've seen that latest report, the Mo Ibrahim Index. Okay. CHAS advocates dedicated funding for free SHS policy, and 70-year-old man crowned 2024 National Best Farmer. Editors of newspapers, you can't say 70 years old. It's
a year.
Right in 70-year-old
man.
Anyway, those are Suleimana. You have the final word. Let's get this done and dusted. Suleimana Brahima.
Well, Ben, I think I would want to basically reiterate the point that I keep making, that the only way our country can progress is if we are honest with ourselves and be factual to ourselves at all times. And I think that is what all of us should be doing, not just the politicians, but those who get the opportunity to also interact with the people must always do what would serve the interest of our people. The stories that were just read, the commissioning of the gold mine, I think is a great development. We've been struggling as a country to manage the natural resource endowment that we have. So if we have large-scale miners coming in, we can think about the employment generation and the revenue that will be accruing to the state. But we just have to also remind ourselves that we have had gold mining companies in this country for decades, and you go to places like Obuasi, Takwa, and the rest, and you don't really see the reflection of the benefits. And we should begin to look at how we can do things in ways that communities that are mining communities will benefit, and the country will benefit more than we have benefited in the past.
Thank you very much, Suleimana. We have to cap it off here. I see Nana Yaa is not happy with me that I'm capping it off like this.
But mining thing, why is it Chinese?
Why is it Chinese?
I haven't read the full story.
I
got the impression that it's a Ghanaian thing.
You would have to speak to government on that.
Is it Chinese?
Thank you.
How?
So the gold mining project of Cardinal Namdini Mining Limited, a Chinese large-scale gold mining firm.
Chinese.
What don't you get about
why should
a
it be Chinese
gold mining firm?
No, but why should it be Chinese?
But even Galamsey, where they are totally...
No, but why are we allowing
they are doing it? How about...
No, but this is wrong.
Okay.
So the government cannot do it by themselves.
We'll have time in subsequent installments to look at it. Those who joined the conversation, Yaa Jantuah, former General Secretary of the CPP. We had Suleimana Brahima, Executive Director, Media Foundation for West Africa, and Ishaq Ibrahim, Senior Lecturer at the UPSA Law School. Thank you all for joining the conversation. We serve you sports up next Tuesday.